friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dave from Chase the Summit, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the new Hoka One Clifton 8 road running shoe. On my channel I usually feature trail running shoes because I'm primarily interested in ultra running and trail running. However, I do spend quite a bit of time on the road in order to get in shape for those longer trail runs. For a long time now I've been wearing Altra shoes, and that's not because I'm sponsored by them or I'm on their team or anything like that. I just really like their shoes and I like the zero drop platform. However, recently I've been having issues with durability, and that's about when Hoka emailed me and asked if I wanted to try out the Clifton 8 and also the Hoka Torin 2 trail running shoe, which I'll have a whole different video about. And of course I said yes, and in full disclosure, I didn't pay for these shoes. Hoka sent them over for the purpose of testing and to make this video about them. That said, this is not a sponsored video. They didn't pay me to make this video. They don't get to see this video before you, so this is my honest and unbiased opinion about these shoes. I've been wearing the Hoka Clifton 8s for about a month now, for all of my road runs and even some light trail running activities around my town where it's not like super aggressive and I can get away with a road shoe. And I'm excited to share my experience with you on what I think about the Clifton 8s so far. Before we dive in though, if you find this video helpful, entertaining, fun, anything like that, consider hitting the thumbs up and subscribing down below so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. Sorry, these are a little bit dirty. Like I said, I have ran in them quite a bit, so there's some mud crusted on them and some stains and stuff. Try to look past that. The first thing I noticed when I took the Clifton 8s out of the box was the design and look of the shoe. I really like the colors they used here. They call this one aquarelle and teal. It's kind of an interesting color name. It's kind of a teal, kind of aqua water look to it. Overall, I really like the colorway. I like the red accent on the midsole. It just looks really cool overall. The upper of the Clifton 8 is an engineered mesh, you can see, and there are some vents cut in it. However, it's not super thin. Like if you squeeze it with your fingers, there is some thickness to it, but it is pretty breathable even on pretty hot days. I haven't had a real issue with this shoe feeling overly hot, but it's definitely not the most breathable of the bunch. The Hoka One Clifton 8 features a gusseted tongue, and it's pretty comfortable once it's snugged down on your foot. Another prominent feature of the Clifton 8 is this flared out Achilles heel back here. It's an interesting look, kind of has a kind of an elfish look to it, but it's functional. I don't find that it digs into my heel. I kind of like how it flares out, and I think a lot of the brands are doing this now. Another thing I was surprised about with the Clifton 8 is actually the weight. When I looked at the shoe coming out of the box, I was like, oh, that's a big shoe. That's a heavy shoe. But on my scale, it only came in at 9.55 ounces for my men's size 10.5, which is actually pretty light. Something I was nervous about when I first laced up the Clifton 8 is that this shoe is not a zero drop shoe, and that's what I've been used to for like the past 5 years. I've been running in Altra shoes. Those are always a zero drop platform, whereas the Hoka Clifton 8 actually has a 5mm drop from the heel to the toe. That 5mm drop simply means that the heel is elevated 5mm above the forefoot. This is still considered a low drop. Some shoes have like a 10 or a 13mm drop. This is still pretty low, and the good news is when I laced these up and went on my first run, I didn't even notice it. This is a myth that's always talked about with Altra shoes, that if you go to Altra shoes or you leave Altra shoes, you have to transition out of that shoe into a new brand. And honestly, it really wasn't that big of a deal to me. Another interesting feature about the Clifton 8 is that despite looking like it has like a marshmallow under it, like there's tons of cushion, it actually doesn't feel like that when you put it on. The forefoot actually has 24mm of midsole material, and the rear of the shoe actually has 29mm of midsole material. So I typically wear a men's size 10.5 in my Altra shoes that I've been buying for a long time now. I bought a men's size 10.5 wide with the Hoka Clifton 8s because I knew that they actually run a bit narrow, like the whole brand is a little bit narrow. Unfortunately, the Clifton 8 wide is still just a little bit narrow for my awkwardly wide feet. I actually don't really have that wide of a foot, but the problem for me is actually my midfoot. Right in the middle is the wide part of my foot. So the heel's good on this shoe for me. The forefoot is actually good for me on this shoe, but actually right in the middle here is where I feel it, right by the arch of my foot. And you can notice that the midsole actually pulls into the shoe a bit here, and I find that my foot, if I can exaggerate it with my fingers, kind of does this and kind of overlaps that midsole material. It's not a major issue, and I can definitely still run long miles in it, but once I take the shoe off, I do feel it in my arch just a little bit. That said, this is really just my problem with my feet. This might not happen for you if you have a slightly narrower midfoot, which you probably do because mine's pretty wide, but I feel like I should mention this because some people do have an issue with that wider midfoot, and this may not be the the right shoe for you if you do. Around the ankle area of the Clifton 8, there is quite a bit of padding, and it does look just a little bit excessive. I kind of like a thin padded ankle. However, when I laced this shoe up and I went for my run, I really didn't mind it. The only time it does bother me if it's like a really, really hot day, you can feel all of that extra padding around your ankle, and it can feel just a little bit hot there. Let's talk about the ride of the Hoka One Clifton 8. Do I have to say one every time? I was actually surprised. Despite having like all of this midsole down here, I really expected it to be kind of a squishy ride, but that's really not the case with the Clifton 8. I was actually pleasantly surprised by the responsive feel of the Clifton 8, even though it is a cushioned shoe. It did feel pretty fast for me because I'm kind of used to cushioned shoes from Altra. Personally, for me, I could see myself wearing this for marathon distances at a medium to hard pace. There's actually a surprising amount of energy transfer despite having a good amount of foam in the midsole. In terms of traction, the Clifton 8s have this kind of harder, sticky rubber throughout the outsole, as well as some exposed midsole foam throughout the outsole. I found the traction on the Clifton 8s to be pretty good, even on wet roads and on buffed out trails. Hasn't really been an issue for me. In terms of durability, like I said, I've only had these shoes for about a month, so I'm not gonna, say I have a long-term experience with them, but so far they're holding up really well. There's really no wear points to speak of throughout the entire shoe, and I have been actually wearing the Clifton 8s as kind of a daily driver shoe when I go to like my kids' Father's Day picnic at daycare or whatever. Even on the outsole, you can see that there's a little bit of wear over here, but throughout the outsole, it still looks relatively new. Final topic is going to be the price of the Clifton 8s. These come in at $130, so they're not the cheapest thing out there, but they're also not expensive by any stretch of the imagination. What's my overall verdict on the Hoka One Clifton 8? Well, I actually really like it. First of all, I love the look of this shoe. It's a very stylish shoe, in my opinion at least. I think for 130 bucks, you're getting a lot for your money here, and in terms of durability, they're holding up great so far. So this is probably like a 300 to 500 mile shoe for the right person. For me though, I have issues with the width of the midfoot. I don't think I'd be able to do super long miles in this shoe. I'm not sure if I'd survive a marathon, although I could try. It's really not digging in that much, but the fact that I can feel it at all just tells me that this might not be the right shoe for me. That said though, just because it's probably not the right shoe for me for longer distances doesn't mean it's not the right shoe for you. And this could certainly become a go-to shoe for a lot of people running marathons or just training every day and want a really comfortable lightweight shoe. Okay, that's all I've got to say about the Hoka One Clifton 8s, but I want to hear from you. Are you wearing the Clifton 8s or are you wearing the Clifton 7s, last year's model? Let me know in the comments down below what you like about them, what you hate about them. I want to hear all of it. Let me know down below. I just realized I got dirt all over my table from putting my shoes on it. And with that, if you found this video helpful, entertaining, fun, I don't know, any of those things, consider hitting the thumbs up down below and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. I would really appreciate that. And of course, if you're interested in picking up your very own pair of Hoka One Clifton 8s, I will have links in the description that do help support my channel, but they don't cost anything extra to you. Okay, I think I'm done. I'll see you next time.